What's going on, everybody? This is Rick from Studio Spades. Today I'm going to show you how to model a procedural set of stairs or steps that have a kind of a brutalist look to them with Falloff Tool. So I'm going to show you how to do this with some of the Falloff Tool nodes and give you some inspiration on how to use this new product of mine. Falloff Tool is not only a very handy collection of nodes that can help you animate procedurally, it also allows you to model or shape your scenes in a procedural way, so you can always change things later on if you don't like them. So let's get into it. So I'm starting off with an empty scene, as you can see, and I'm just going to add a plane to it. And in edit mode, I'm going to scale it up a bit, so we have something to look at, and I'm going to subdivide it a couple times. And Falloff Tool is a node collection that works in geometry nodes, so in order to do this, we'll have to add a geometry node setup to this plane. Even if you're a beginner to geometry nodes, don't be scared by Falloff Tool, because it's truly very easy to use, and it's also deep enough for more technical artists that might want more out of geometry nodes. So we have this geometry node setup right here, and in order to make it a staircase, I'm going to extrude this plane. So I'm going to extrude the mesh so we get some height in there, because is there a set of steps or stairs, of course, go upward. So let's set it, I don't know, up to 5. We all know that stairs, of course, gradually go up, and we can use a linear fall off for that. So drag in a linear fall off into the setup, and it automatically spawns a linear fall off start and linear fall off end. And we can use these empties. The end is parented to the start. We can use these empties to get that gradual rising of the steps. As you can see, the offset scale accepts a float value, and Falloff Tool, all the nodes output a float value. So we can plug in that float value, and boom, we automatically get a set of steps. But it's not really the look I was going for, so maybe we can change that. I want, first of all, it to reach the exact end, so that should be, so let's see how big this plane is. It's 16 by 16, okay. So this should be -8, and this should be -16, I guess. Yeah, so this, since it's parented, the follow end is parented to the start, so that's why we have to set it to -16. And we already have a very low set of steps, so maybe we can change this. We can go to the float drop-down menu, and we can see the float is set to 1. So this set of steps right here is at a height of 1. So maybe we can increase that back to 5, like we did before. This is the entire block scaled to 5, and when float is plugged into 5, it goes from basically 0 to 5 between this linear fall off. And we can, of course, move this endpoint as well, so we can really dial into our tastes if we want to. This model is still looking kind of basic, so maybe we can add some extra detail to it. And for that, I'm going to use a bevel node. Now this is, of course, part of geometry nodes itself, but adding bevels to something can really add that extra detail in there. So let's up these segments a bit so we get a bit smoother results. But as you can see, it bevels every extruded face, and that's not really something I was going for. And you can see these weird lines here because it's beveling all the way down to the origin, and the corners are being beveled, and that's not something I want. But luckily, Falloff Tool has a fix for that too. So we can use a mesh normal fall off, which is this one. We can drag it in, and Falloff Tool outputs location, rotation, scale, float, and integers, and that allows you to make selections too. And with the mesh normal node, mesh normal, we can make selections based on the direction of the faces, the normal values of these faces. So let's plug in the integer into selection, and you can right away see the bevel disappear because everything is selected now. We go into integer and set it to 1, so we have a value and integer value to work with, and we can, under settings, set mesh normal vector. So now if we set the vector to 1, that means on the z-axis, so this is x, y, and z. If we set it to 1 on the z-axis, that means that everything that's pointing upward can be selected or unselected, but nothing's really happening still. So on the clamp, we can tweak on the range the influence, and you can see things pop in and disappear here. And now you can see that the top is being beveled, but those weird lines that were originating from the bevels on the corners are disappearing now. So this is more of a result that I like, but we're not really there yet because every individual face is being beveled. It's because it's a grid, because we subdivided it. And I want all these steps to be one solid block, so we can actually replace this geometry, the original plane, and just load in a grid here. So grid, put in the grid mesh. This is of course a geometry node. It's not part of Falloff Tool. Well, 16 by 16, right? Yeah. And then we can, if we up the resolution here, we have a procedural set of steps that looks a bit nicer than all the individual faces being beveled. That's just my opinion. I know other people might think otherwise, but yeah, I really like this look. And maybe we can texture it as well, because, well, it kind of looks a bit boring looking at these bright colors. So since we're in geometry nodes, we can do a set material right here, and we're still looking at a pretty basic node setup, as you can see. Let's just delete this group input, we don't need it. And I'm gonna add a material by Thinquify. Now, I'm not being sponsored by these guys, but I do love the material pack. So if you want to support the channel, you can head on into the description of this video, of every video actually, and press the link there, and you can buy Thinquify through that link. I reached out to Thinquify team myself for this collaboration because I just really love their material product. So definitely recommend it. Oh, this is a geometry node setup. Maybe I'm gonna look for concrete. What I like about the pack is that all the materials are procedural, and they have millions of options you can enable or disable. Anyway, I'm yapping. Thinquify composite. Now you need to add the material in geometry nodes in order to show up in geometry nodes, of course. And maybe I can add a, I want to do the cobblestone. I like that one. Drag it on, and now it's in my scene, and just make sure that you select it here. So just check out the link for Thinquify in my description. It's called Proterials. Yeah, so this is the cobblestone material on my stairs. Pretty nice. Now I want to tweak this linear set of steps because it's still a bit boring to me. I mean, we can do a lot more with this, and fortunately with Falloff Tool we can. Now we use the linear fall off to offset the scale in a linear fashion, so between the start and end point of the linear fall off endpoint. But every Falloff Tool features a clamp section where you can use curves to modify the field. So I've developed a set of curves that just modify the way in this case, linear field is being processed, but it works on all my fall-offs. But I guess the linear fall-off is the best way to demonstrate it. And we can move the endpoint here so you can see it move. We can slide down the influence of that curve clamper so you can see it go back to a fully linear one. And here's the influence of the S curve to soft, and we have a harder one just a harsher way of processing that field. We can do it in steps, all kinds of options, but we also have a user curve section. So you can draw your own under user curve. So select user curve 1 in this case, and nothing happens because the default is linear. So you can see nothing happen if you slide it up or down. But luckily you can edit it really easily. Just select the node you selected the user curve in, click it once, press tab. Then once you're inside, go to this blue section that says user curves. Select that once, press tab again, and then you can edit it. And then you can edit these curves right inside of the Falloff. So as you can see, it's a linear one, but we can draw extra points and you can shape it any way you like. So this is the power of Falloff Tool. It's a great way of procedurally not only animating but also modeling, in this case a set of stairs. But Falloff Tool outputs float values, vector values, rotation values, so you can basically plug it into anything. So if you can think of it, you can make it with Falloff Tool. That's the power of this node setup. Now this is of course a bit weird, but let's just do something simple here and give it this sort of, I don't know, I would say logarithmic curve a bit. Yeah, I like this look. Pretty cool. And yeah, once you're done with editing the user curve, just press tab again and tab again on the group input, and then you're back into the main geometry nodes window. And don't forget that once you're in there, you can also click geometry nodes here, and then you're in the parent node setup. So you can yeah, tweak everything about your setup again. Anyway, cool, but maybe we can tweak this even further. So another thing we can do with Falloff Tool is combine multiple Falloffs. So we can influence a model or an animation with multiple Falloffs at the same time and have them work together. And yeah, that's something that I want for this staircase or a set of steps. I want another linear Falloff to influence the x-axis. So from left to right instead of front to back, which we have done with this linear Falloff right here. And I want it to go from side to side. So let's drag in another linear Falloff here, and you can see it spawn in the scene. So let's rotate it on the z-axis 90 degrees. Make sure it reaches the end of the left side and the end of the right side. Pretty good. And we can use, in this case, a math node, since we're using float values. As you can see, math nodes take a type float value, so plug it on the float, and you can well, add to it if you want, but that kind of does the same thing as this, sort of, kind of. Well, not really, actually. It makes it just higher. But that's not what we're going to do, because I wanted to add the effect of the second linear Falloff, which is spread on the x-axis here. So let's take that flow value, boom, and make sure that we have a nice number, maybe 2, so we get a nice effect, and make sure that we multiply them so both effects work. But as you can see, it's still not doing anything on the x-axis. That's because we forgot to subdivide the x-axis in the beginning. It only has a subdivision of 2, so that's basically just the ends. And if we create more subdivisions here, you can see it have an effect going from left to right. So that's the effect is strongest here in this case. But as you may remember, we also had this linear Falloff, which goes to that end. So that's why the effect is strongest here in the corner. But let me just disconnect them both so we can see the effects. So this is what the second linear Falloff does. And when we connect the other one, this is what the original did. And when you multiply them both, we get this one. But let's just undo that one. So now the second linear Falloff is only connected under settings under the linear falloff, we can also select mirror linear falloff. So right now it goes from A to B, or start to end, and the mirror linear falloff goes from A to B to A, and the B is in the middle in this case. So as you can see, it mirrors the effect halfway, so we get this nice ramping up and ramping down, which I like. And now when we combine that with the other falloff steps, we get this weird, very industrial or brutalist looking set of steps. Pretty cool, but I think the effect is a bit too strong. So let's pull that down a bit. And maybe we need to up this one. No. And yeah, with this second linear falloff, we can also go into the curve clamper, of course, and draw our own curves. So maybe we can get a really nice effect going here. Maybe I'll up the subdivisions a bit, and yeah, let's go into the node. So tap it once, press tab, and then go to the user curve sections here. Click it once, press tab 2. Now this linear falloff uses its own user curves, so keep that in mind. You can always copy paste the curves into here, of course. So let's see if we can get a cool effect. Oh, I forgot to, let's go back. I forgot to set it to user curve, of course. So boom, tab, tab again. And then you can start tweaking this staircase. We can also make sure it starts higher. That's possible too. So you can get some really interesting results, all fully procedural. So if you don't like something, just change it later on. And yeah, it's lots of flexibility here. And you can get some crazy results that way. Maybe pull this down. And that's a bit much, I guess. Maybe 0.2, 0.5 maybe. Make these curves more linear. Oh, let me see. Linear, 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 and linear. Yeah, so we can get some really interesting designs. And again, fully procedural. So if you don't like it, change it later on. Lots of flexibility here. So yeah, the Falloff tool is not great only for animation. It's also great for procedural modeling, maybe instancing. There's lots of flexibility here. You can plug in Falloff tool into the cloth simulation nodes. Basically anything you can think of inside of Blender, any value or any node that accepts location, rotation, scale, float, and integer values, you can use it on. So lots of flexibility here, lots of options. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this short demonstration on Falloff tool. In this case, I showed the linear falloff and the mesh normal falloff. Still a pretty basic node setup. I mean, we don't have a lot of nodes here. 3 of them are Falloff tool. So this one, and this one. And we only have a grid that's being extruded and beveled and a material. So pretty basic, but still you can get some very interesting and complex results. And yeah, modeling this yourself would have taken a lot of time, and it's not procedural. So if you want to change something later on, like the user curves, you can do that and get some new results. Start shaping your own models. Interesting. So that's this short video on Falloff tool. It's available now on Superhive Market. Version 1.5 is out, which has a lot of nodes, much more than the previous version. So we have a time node for keyframeless animation, a wave node, curve node. Wave node makes waves. Curve node allows you to have a falloff in proximity to a curve, so you can draw the curve yourself. Image falloff, so you can load in an image. Noise falloff for that predictable randomness. The linear falloff, which I just demonstrated. Random falloff, random modifier, sorry, which creates random values. And spherical falloff, proximity falloff, which creates a falloff based on the proximity to a mesh, a custom mesh, so you can load in any model you like. And the normal falloff, which I just demonstrated, to filter that bevel, which only bevels the top of the, which only bevels the top of this set of steps. And if we disconnect that, everything is being beveled, so even the corners. So we get these weird corners here. I don't like that, so that's why I use the mesh normal fall off to create a more coherent and look that makes more sense for a set of steps. Anyway, this is Rick. Hope you enjoyed this video. Get Falloff Tool now on Superhive Market, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you do, please share some videos on it or tag me in your posts. I would really love to see it. Anyway, hope you learned something. See you next time. Take care.